Ortiz keeps 𝘓𝘢𝑑 pottery traditions alive, but transforms them into a contemporary vision that embraces his Pueblo history and culture and merges it with apocalyptic themes, science fiction, and his own storytelling. Ortiz's works have been exhibited in museum collections worldwide, including the Design Museum Den Bosch, Foundation Cartier in Paris, Triennale Milano, Smithsonian Institution, Denver Art Museum, Lowe Art Museum in Miami, and the Archery Museum in Los Angeles. His latest exhibition, I Am Indigenous Ancestral Memory, is currently on view at the Hickory Museum of Art in Hickory, North Carolina. So please join me in welcoming Virgil to him.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. We really appreciate, and as Emily said, you know, it's such a diverse group of friends that are close to the Weisman, and we really like this. So I feel very honored to have Virgil here tonight. I just wanted to share also a little bit of why we decided to acquire this work. As you all are probably aware, the Weisman has held for a long time a large collection of Mimbrez ancestors and their belongings that we've been working on repatriating for the past 3 years. When I came to the Weisman, the university had already started working on the inventory, and we've been in consultation with the tribes for 3 years to make this happen. And I just felt that it made sense when we met, Virgil and I, in Santa Fe last summer, and I went to see the exhibition, and I walked into this space and I just not only fell in love with the work, which I had already seen some of Virgil's work, but with this piece in particular, what it signifies. And to me, it was really the opportunity to think about the future of the Weisman. Think about, we're giving back all of this, but we're bringing the future, you being the future, and so closely related, you know, to this Mimbrez collection, your ancestors. And it was a way to honor also all of this history, a lot of wrongdoings that we've done as an institution. But to me, it just really signifies the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So I would just like you to tell us a little bit about your journey as an artist. How did your career unfold? And you know, tell us a little bit about the history.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me here. Alejandra, to meet you. My friend Juan Lucero knows you guys as well, and he's the one that introduced us in Santa Fe during the Indian market. And like everybody that worked here is like really awesome. And thank you guys for welcoming me here. And it's just amazing to see Tahu installed here and see her new home here. She feels at home here and it's installed next to all the amazing artwork. And I had the opportunity to meet Jude Caneco. So to have her staring across the room at one of his Tahu pieces, it makes me happy. But a really quick background about who I am. I'm from 𝘓𝘢𝑑 Pueblo, which is located between Santa Fe and Albuquerque in New Mexico. And I was born into a family of potters on my mom's side of the family, so Virgil Ortiz. Our dad, Guadalupe, was a drum maker, so my siblings and I, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and we were all surrounded by art on a daily basis. Our parents are both now moved on to the next dimension, and our mom left in 2007 and our dad in 2015. But with their 100% support every day, they taught us how to work and gather the natural clays that 𝘓𝘢𝑑 works with. All the methods and materials are very old school. So I was happy to be able to learn that with all our grandmothers, our aunts, everybody along the way. And some of the members in our family that are still using the traditional methods and materials are pictured here. So it's like Kyle, Dominic, Harlan, Lisa, and my sisters, Joyce and Janice, and one of our youngest nieces, Dominique. So to be able to work with them and like repeat how our family would go to the clay mother mountain to get the clay out of harvest the clay basically out of the vein, which who knows how long our people have been getting clay from there. So it's a very important place, a spiritual place for our whole family. And when we go to dig our clay, we have to offer food and prayer to the clay mother and ask permission to dig into her harvest and state our purpose, introduce ourselves, and ask for blessings of how to continue this. So there's a quick example of what we go through to gather all these materials, and it takes us a whole year to process everything, to gather the clay, the volcanic ash, pumice stone to mix with the clay, and our 𝘓𝘓𝑗𝑒 traditional colors are black, white, and red. So the black paint is made out of the wild bee spinach plant. But I put together like a really a 5-minute video that explains like a whole year's worth of work. And you can see this here really quick. Because our family makes the clay and also the paint together, so we split up the whole the product once we finish it. But that was just a quick, very short version of it.
It's also fascinating to think that that was very much the way a lot of the mibres pots were made, and when we've had all of the Pueblo and Hopi people here look at them, and they share that the knowledge is still the same and how it has continued. So it's very interesting. So Tahu really is part of a larger project that you have that it's linked to the Pueblo Revolt that I don't think many people really know about. Having grown up in Mexico, I was familiar with it because to us, there were so very few indigenous communities that were able to really free themselves from the Spanish conquerors, that it was always an example. And to think that, this was done in the 17th century was just pretty incredible, and something that I think, we always kind of aspired to as a community in other countries. And, it was just very few that were able to do this. So I know that your work honors that and takes it further. So could you talk a little bit about the Pueblo Revolt and how you came to work around this?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that, quite embarrassing, like when I do shows in, say, Milan or Paris, like all the Europeans know our history more than Americans do. And there's only two reasons I feel that I'm here on this earth to do is like, it's way bigger than I am. And I would say I'm just a bead in a necklace. So to be able to look at pieces like from these photographs from like 𝘓𝘓𝘂𝘓 from the late 1800s, he was documenting a lot of the artwork that was around New Mexico. And I had no idea, none of my parents knew about these types of works. And one family friend by the name of Bob Gallegos, a collector out of Albuquerque and a dealer, he would come and buy different pieces from us. And he was asking me like, okay, like he knew me since I was a 6-year-old kid making pottery with my parents. And by the time I was like 16, he was asking my parents like, who's teaching him how to do all these other types of like figurative pottery that was not what I was taught. And because Coach is known for the storyteller figure, but to be able to start just creating with what I wanted to do out of my head. He asked my parents to bring me down to his showroom, which we've never been there before. And that was the first time we've seen these pieces when we walked into the studio. It turned out he had the largest collection of historic Cochiti figurative pottery, and our mouths just hit the ground because we had no idea of seeing them before, but all the design style and what I was making was identical to these pieces. So I knew that it was a major aha moment in my life, like that, this is why I'm here, just to make sure that, to keep this tradition alive and make sure it doesn't die out. But this photograph of 𝘓𝘓𝘂𝘓, I asked my family members to choose a piece and to recreate it. And there was 23 pieces altogether, and we kept them all together, displayed at the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture in Santa Fe. And kept them together as a group, and Cartier from Paris ended up purchasing all of them together as a group. And that was like really awesome to work with their family to pull off something like this, as well as like bring back the size, the whole types of character making. Like it was basically what our people did was documenting timelines and almost like a newspaper, because if you look at all the different styles of what they're making, they've seen what they've never, they were making what they've never seen before. So a lot of the operas that were brought into town, like via the newly laid railroads, more entertainment came into our area. So there was operas and the circus sideshows. So you have figures like these on the left-hand side, like the ringleaders, the opera singers. So I wanted to, after I found out that kind of ancestral memory that I had no idea what was going on, and I had that connection to it, so that was my life's work, is to make sure to bring it back and bring back that style. And then the second reason I'm here is to educate globally about the 1680 Pueblo Revolt using artwork. So knowing that the conquistadors destroyed a lot of the ceramic figures, because the Pueblo people were accused of sorcery and witchcraft. And a lot of the pieces were broken, but it was just them documenting the time. And they were actually making caricatures of the people they've never seen before. So to tie it to educational purposes, like educating about the Pueblo Revolt, that's how my whole backstory started. So within each exhibition, it grows more and more, but that's also always the base of how I started.
So the other thing is, and I was very attracted to this, Tahu has a special significance, and you know, I was also fascinated to see your exhibition and see sort of all the different characters and how they were very precisely described and how they all played a role in this revolt that will continue. And could you tell us what the significance of the character of Tahu? I was also really attracted because it was a woman and a woman warrior, and the fact that she's blind, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely. So like when I was thinking like, how can I get this to pass it on to the next generation? Like how am I gonna attract them and teach them about what is going on? So I thought like writing a movie script about the Pueblo Revolt happening simultaneously in the historic times, present time, and the future. And that's where all of my work is, like 1680, 2180 for all the different exhibitions that are up there. So I started describing and like coming up with characters, and growing up in a family of mainly women that you see in the Pueblos. Like they run all the Pueblos, they do most of the work in the Pueblos. But just to see how strong they are, I have 4 older sisters, and all my cousins, a lot of them are women, and just to see and honor them, and to make sure that create a really strong woman warrior and women empowerment. So that's what I was always looking at, and raised by a lot of women. So that came through naturally. So I didn't have to come up with an idea of how to make her the superhero, the heroine of the movie. And she's a right-hand woman to 𝘍𝘍𝘁, who is the actual person that devised the plan for the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. So behind every man, there's a bigger woman. So this is who Tahu is. But like to tell the story of who she is, like she was growing up and they were being trained as archers as kids. And when the conquistadors came here, they challenged them to an archery contest, because they seen the kids being taught by their grandmothers archery. So in turn, the kids all kicked their butts, and then they got really pissed and blinded all those kids that were archers. So there was many battles before the actual 1680 Pueblo Revolt. So as they grew up, when they were 18, 19, that's when the 1680 revolt happened. And at that time, then they're all of age to become warriors. So she became, even though they're all blind, she became the leader of the blind archers. So that's the whole backstory of how it starts. So, yep, she's definitely the heroine of the movie. And to really start putting her and introducing her to the public, then I started making graphics of her, like taking pictures, dressing up my friends. Her name is Leslie Elkins. She was 17 when I first started working with her, and she portrays Tahu, the blind archer. So taking pictures of her, turning them into graphics, you know, on social media, bringing in like the power of women to vote. So like there's like whole campaigns that I worked with just to help people to register to vote and all that. But you can see how now it's spreading into all the different clay works, and then also character development for the movie characters. And it just gets deeper and deeper using Photoshop, AI, AR to develop her. And here's like a sample of my sisters and my nieces that I photographed in Cojini Canyon when there was a forest fire. And I was looking for a backdrop to put them. And when I went to see where the land had been scarred, I seen like the rebirth of all the trees started having little green buds in them. So I said that was a perfect rebirth image for the blind archers coming out of the forest. So, and then it just spread on to what you seen in Santa Fe. And I'm very happy that she's here. But this is just an example of how she's developed over the years and what she looks like now.
So then the other thing is, you also move beyond pottery. I have a sweatshirt with Tahu that I wasn't gonna wear today because we were gonna seem like we were playing in a band.
Yeah, but we do.
But but we didn't want to be so explicit about it. So can you tell us a little bit about that part of your work where you incorporate fashion and film and augmented reality, and why is it important for you to use all of these different mediums to increase your storytelling?
Yeah, first of all, I can't go to like Spirit Halloween store to buy these costumes because they're all original. So I had to learn how to, go to YouTube University and build all the costume. I taught myself how to sew and using different, say like Blender 3D model programs to develop them as, 3D models like this. It helped me really push her and to take her into all the different realms of digital, and being able to work with people down in Cuernavaca, Mexico to build the size of what she is now. Sample of how we raku fire her, which is just an amazing thing to work with this company, Trade Art Quan down in Cuernavaca. And to be able to have people that even June Kaneko works with. That's why it made like a full circle to see her installed here like this. And it's just amazing to be able to work with them and to see the final result here. It's pretty amazing, and working with plaster molds, taking molds of my friends to get personalized masks, right? Because again, you can't go to the store and buy these. So then sculpting like with wax clay over the plaster molds that I just took from their faces, developing the characters based on them in clay on the right, and then their masks like that fit each individual, taking silicone and resins to make the masks. And this was just like all out of necessity to learn how to create these costuming, right? And foam fabrication, plastic fabrication all came into play. So now you're able to start to develop the character even more and make videos of them and get that much closer to making a film. So these are samples of some of the costumes of the characters that I've been working on since maybe 23 years ago now. It's like taking baby steps, but we're figuring out every detail of how to make these costuming, printing on fabric and combining them on models and shooting them, say like at misty Badlands, like places that look like they're from another world. It's just amazing to see them. So now that helps develop like who they are and like what kind of like backgrounds they come from. But yeah, it's just amazing to use any type of AI, AR to help develop them. Samples like from the history Colorado and Denver. So like all the posters coming alive like this. You see the wall decals in museums, different venues that will install them. You can go in there and look at them as a normal museum, but then also look at them through your phone. And then samples of like when I do the hair and makeup, like I just learned that out of necessity as well. So samples of when we do all the materials coming together on the models, hair and makeup, and just watching the TV show Face Off. I don't know if you've heard of that before. To do like all the makeup and like prosthetics and stuff really develops the characters more, and like trying to the final design of how I want to film them in the feature film. And then just taking pictures, photographs, video shoots of all the characters to really go along with installations. So like how Tahu is installed here, like we could now develop a special behind the scenes making of her and make her come alive even more so.
Great, that's exciting. So you have a lot of works in other museums, and what do you think about the way, you've talked a little bit about how Tahu interacts here and what you've seen, but are there any other examples of your work in other institutions, and how do you feel they interact with these institutions?
It's getting more and more immersive because I worked with 𝘕𝘓𝘓. If you guys have heard of 𝘕𝘓𝘓 before, it's like a very immersive installations, and to be able to learn how to go from working in galleries or museums where you cannot touch a piece. Now you go into 𝘕𝘓𝘓 and kids are climbing on the pieces. So you have to learn how to build with fiberglass and resin, really strong, and being able to withstand like selfies or whatever people can touch, and then bringing them all together. So I took that idea of how I was working with them, but to bring it into institutions and venues and museums to be able to use big wall decals and bring them alive through augmented reality, but also in a separate part of the museum have a projection 3D mapping installation, so you see the actual characters, my friends coming alive portraying these characters, all the different ads or the cards and stuff coming alive, again using AI and AR. So it's important for an artist to speak their minds and work with venues of how to display their work, because their vision is going to come alive even more so. And it's amazing what you can work and how you can display new works. And here's an example of like all different museums that we work with, like the 𝘉𝘁 in Miami, I Am in 𝘓𝘍𝑜𝘪 Art Museum in North Carolina, and hopefully here, like we could do even more cooler installations that will help understand like the public of how all the different types of mediums that I work with and how they work together. So here's an example of how scanning all of the pieces so you're able to bring them alive digitally. Some of the 3D mapping projections. My friends Morgan and Sebastian helping me bring these to fruition. So you see exactly how all the different types of AR and AI work with the characters. It just helps the viewer expand their mind and look what they're looking at and understand. So see the behind the scenes like this, you're able to see like all the little snippets come together and how they're displayed in a museum. And how wall decals work like this is really important to envelope the viewer, make it selfie stations so they can take pictures and talk about it and help spread the word. Having dark parts of the museum where you could really see how the LED lights come alive inside a ceramic bust like Tahu, another version of her. The runners and working with Paris Soleil out of Denver to build metal design work like that cover museums, the facades, like for shade, parking, the fascia of buildings. And then also like this is at the 𝘓𝘍𝑜𝘪 Art Museum. We designed a aeronaut cockpit, like you're going to be in their spaceship. So you get to sit down in the actual cockpit of the chair of their cockpit. You have a screen close to you. You have headphones on, so you're hearing all the music. You're looking at the whole characters flying, and beyond that, behind the wall behind it, and you see. That's what I'm working on. But you see even more so you're completely enveloped within the installation. And like the 𝘓𝘍𝑜𝘪 Museum, Christina and Clarissa, the director and curator, took a big step to be able to let me show them like, I want to make a cockpit inside your, it's almost like a ride inside your museum. Like, okay, they're down for anything. And they've seen how it reacted with all the kids and how the kids loved it because like even in museums like at the 𝘉𝘁 and here that are connected to universities, it brings in a lot more of that generation, and those are the people that understand more of the social network and how they understand the futuristic of like movie making as well. But it always boils down to telling the story of the 1680 Pueblo Revolt, keeping our pottery alive, women empowerment, and just different ways. But, that's how it all works together.
Is there a place where you dream of like, okay, this is a venue that I would dream of having my work at because it would be especially relevant or meaningful to you?
My first choice is here.
Great answer.
And I mean, it's just really fun to see different parts of the world, like how all the different people react with it. It's like I dreamt of making a play, you know, an opera with all the telling the whole story, like shows like Cirque du Soleil with all the characters, the design work, again telling the stories. There's just so many different ways, and having ADHD, just, I mean, it's like, what else can we do? So it's just like all over the place. But museums is one of the coolest places to have that, and to kind of change and help push forward the way a viewer will start to see how museums are changing as well, to be more immersive and to have it more exciting. And like every museum that I work with, I try to ask them if they have any historic 𝘓𝘓𝘓 work or Pueblo work, ceramics, so that I could bring them out of storage and have them displayed next to my work that I'm making now, some of my old work, and then some of the high fire work that is like what Tahu is now, the future of where the clay work is going. But just to have everything all interact together and like remind the world that we're still here, living, thriving, and creating. So with people such as yourself and your whole the museum here is like, it helps a lot. Like you get it, you understand it, and to be a part of the repatriation. Did I say that right? It's important about that. And Juan Lucero and Tish and I were talking about that last night, and it's just amazing to see like how many sacred things are in different museums. And
I was looking at the figure. She has this line on the face that I guess kind of looks like war paint, but because it was in that metallic, also kind of looked like a tear. What's your thought behind that?
I'm glad that you picked up on that, just because like using that metallic glaze does resemble like water as well, like as a tear. So it's her telling the story of all the people that were, you know, that what we had to fight for. Like nobody talks about the bloodshed. It's not taught in schools, it's not in our history books. You know, the genocide has been basically swept under the carpet because of what happened. So that's her part being a warrior, like with the war paint, how you interpreted it as well, but also crying for all the people that had to go through that. So yeah, and it's like she's wearing her heart on her, you know, who she is.
Yes?
Alejandra's question about any museum you would want to work with. Are there any artists currently living or dead that you would collaborate with? Project that's inside of your brain that you're building?
I definitely would love to work with one of my main influences is H.R. Geiger, that developed the whole Alien series. That's who they base it on, his artwork. And I love that type of work. And it's kind of horror, it's kind of sci-fi. And I really want to reach that type of audience as well, but just bring this whole history that is a reality. Like a lot of the kids that go to my shows, they understand who these characters are because we make little character cards of who they are and what their superhero powers are. And they have no idea they're getting a lesson in history until it hits them all of a sudden. And then I just direct them to say, like, try to look up more about what happened to the Pueblo people. And then that's where, again, it all goes back to education about who we are as a people.
Any other questions?
If you were to do an opera, what are your ideas about the music that would portray what you have in mind?
I mean, like in Santa Fe, being from Santa Fe, like all of the really cool opera. Have you been there to Santa Fe Opera?
No.
It's the outdoor.
Yes,
it's like,
I have actually. It's beautiful.
yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I have worked with them, like with a children's programming that get the kids over there. But I do my own music and in my exhibitions, and also like I love electronic music. I love, like, I'm goth at heart. And that means like Depeche Mode and yeah, all black, right? But I would do that kind of music and introduce both. Like you know, mix opera singing and voices with electronic music.
That's
So,
an
again,
interesting opera concept, it's great.
and and having just that whole example of mixing historic, present, and future works with music too.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, of
One more
course.
question.
Yes.
I guess because you're like changing the narrative or controlling it, taking it back, have you had a lot of like challenges from even curators who aren't interested really in changing how they see your culture? Like, how do you overcome those kind of challenges?
Yeah, it's important. Like, even like people ask, like, oh my God, you work with AI. You know, like, are you worried about all that stuff? But if we, as indigenous people, do not work with AI, like we have to be able to tell the narrative and write down exactly what the prompts are, tell the narrative, the historic part of it. Otherwise, a non-indigenous person is going to do it and is going to be completely wrong. But this is a way of how I try to work with institutions and show them, like, you know, helping them bring in a younger generation as well, of not only collectors, but just museum goers. And they're gonna, that generation, especially at a university, is gonna understand a lot more of that AI. And sometimes they fight it, but when they, I'm able to use all the different types of mediums like Photoshop, right? So I'll go visit the museum, take pictures, and then strip down the walls and all this, and then I'll like take it into Photoshop and put on wall decals or where the projections would go, how it would be installed, and work with their designers of how I would love to see it set up, and that helps a lot too for them to understand why I would use something like that. Usually they change their minds.
Well, thank you very much for being here and sharing this moment with us, and thank you, Virgil, for coming all the way here.
Thank you, Alejandra, for everything.
sharing this.
I
Thanks.
appreciate it, and I'm happy she's here at Awesome Home.
Great. We're
Thank
happy
you, guys.
she's here.